Before we start, please join the Discord community, link down below for me. When you click the link, the invite should appear as shown. Click accept invite for direct access to yours truly, your fellow community, as well as being notified every time we go live. You'll also be able to view all VODs from the Discord server, as well as any YouTube videos, and be notified when I post here on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, around 99% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. Make sure you fix that by hitting the subscribe button and turning on all notifications. If you do that, I can find the content for you and we can watch it together. Shout out to all my current subscribers as well as current subs on Twitch. We call y'all citizens, you feel me? And yeah, enjoy the video. What's good, YouTube? We got another comp video about Naruto. For the dog, Kidomaki is always going to pre-fire a little like. We discovered him recently about the chakra paradox. So he actually definitely has authentic and informative content. It's a win-win. If you want to see more content like this, that I actually having to find it yourself, make sure you subscribe and check the link down below. You know what I'm saying? In case you don't want to turn the bells on, or you turn the bell on and like it's still late notifications. You know what I'm saying? Liking the video helps put that back on your feed. But join the Discord community down below will help you stay in contact with me, allow recommendations, as well as keep you notified every time I post on YouTube and every time I go live on Twitch. Tap in. Without further ado, let's hop straight into it.
Naruto as a franchise is one of the most popular anime in the history anime. It isn't your typical shonen that comes and goes. I'd argue that Naruto is somewhat timeless in its effect and popularity, but it's also due to that popularity why Naruto's character didn't evolve in the way that he could have. And just to clarify, this isn't about Naruto's development as it pertains to his ideology or personal beliefs. This is more so about what the character was able to accomplish as it pertains to his abilities.
Okay, yeah, because he could have gone farther. They mentioned he's a ceiling ninja. He gets the flying rising. He gets that pretty late, but I mean, he's student of Kakashi, Anbu, and the Special Jonin. Crazy chakra pool. And there's way more like secret techniques he could have learned. And he has like, again, I'll mention at the beginning, that's how important it is, a huge chakra pool.
Cause people called me a failure.
Let me know though.
I'll prove them wrong.
You see, shonen main characters
Take this, Rasing. I can just hear it, bruh.
From a certain trope, which forces them to use a certain move ad nauseum. They might be allowed to deviate from that track from time to time, but it all goes back to that signature move over and over again. Whether it's Luffy's Gum Gum Pistol, Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho, or Naruto's Rasengan. Some of these abilities even become motifs in a sense, with a deep symbolic meaning behind it. For example, Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu, which Sasuke said is a symbol of his weakness. It's a jutsu that covers up his loneliness.
He can't be
now,
alone.
of course, one could simply chalk this up to a bit of banter from Sasuke, but given Naruto's
it literally is a bar. I think that's always been alone. Has like clones. Because this chakra pool, he gets hella clones. But he can never have that many friends because of that chakra pool. Obviously, people like Boruto, his child, who should have a chakra pool comparable to his, because we know his chakra pool is the same size, as if not bigger than the Jinchuriki's. I mean, obviously, you know what I'm saying, growing up, he had to get there. But that same Boruto only does like 4 clones at a time, you know? So they're clearly not the same.
Action, there might be a bit of truth to it. Kishimoto simply used Sasuke as a vehicle to plant that seed in the mind of the audience, which would then retroactively change how one views Naruto's repeat.
And it changes not only how you see Naruto's abilities used, but everyone else's abilities. Like Neji's being a perfectionist, but there was still a blind spot. It's for all Hyuga, but he's the only one who spammed rotation like that. And that blind spot was kind of like a flaw in his argument that you can't change your fate, because there's always people who manage to do it. And as someone who preaches strength, and like strength is determined by fate, lineage, all that, it's like slapped in the face when like my guy is as strong as he is, Kakashi's as strong as he is, Minato is as strong as he is. It's like it's showing him that there's hypocrisy in his argument, and there's a blind spot to that way of thinking. It assumes that you're not strong enough to change your own fate. It assumes that you are like this bystander in your own story. But things aren't predetermined that way. You create that path type situation. Present you creates the tools that the future you is going to view as like tools that they learned in the past, if that makes sense. You feel me? So you are creating right now the arsenal that future you has to pull on. So there's no way possible fate is predetermined, because fate in its essence, is what your future has in store for you. But you play a role in that. You feel me? Like even like say, oh, I'm fated to like get packed up. If I stop training right now, that's 100% gonna happen, and it might happen even worse. It might happen even quicker. Versus like I train my arse off and like I try to do, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes like yeah, it's kind of unavoidable, but often than not, bro. If you try like if you like look at Rock Lee, he probably be fated to be trash, bro. He was moving crazy. Look at my God, bro. What are we talking about?
Of the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This is one way in which a deeper meaning can be attributed to a character's repeated usage of a certain ability, but that isn't the case most of the time. Take Naruto's Rasengan for example. There isn't
disgusting.
The case,
especially because like their blood is connected, almost as if they're doing the hand sign thing. Not disgusting as in bad writing choice. Disgusting as in like that's nasty, but like it's a good plot, especially because no Naruto's holding back during the battle. It's like he lost the arm for his friend. Awesome Shank shit.
Most of the time. Take Naruto's Rasengan for example. There isn't any deep symbolic meaning behind it or why he uses
Spinning
it.
Ball.
He simply learned the ability because he wanted something similar to Sasuke's Chidori, and later formed the Rasen Shuriken because he wanted something stronger to take on Sasuke. You could say there's some thematic value to the Rasen Shuriken as it pertains to...
I mean, I think even in what you just said, there's thematic value to the Rasengan. It's like spinning on, moving forward. But not only that, he wants to catch up to Sasuke so bad. So it's like he's barreling through any means possible type situation. While Sasuke's path is more chaotic, I'll leech on anything that'll help me. He uses Raikiri or Chidori. There's a video we're gonna watch on that later, like talking about the difference between the two. But like I think even for Kakashi, like that jagged past, that like being conflicted and like what to do, even though he's a refined and technical ninja, that's his jutsu. And that's why in older age he masters it and creates purple lightning. So I don't think it's ridiculous to say someone like Naruto, someone like Minato, someone like Jiraiya, these pioneers that are meant to become like these chosen ones that are a part of the chosen one's story are meant to create something and drill and push past forward. There are not any other jutsu like the Rasengan in the verse where like that idea of acceleration, that idea of passing on your spin to the thing that's before you and even the thing behind you. You feel me? There's no other jutsu's concept is quite like the Rasengan to like a T.
Minato not being able to complete it. But that wasn't really what drove Naruto to do it. That was more so a side achievement. So Naruto's usage of the Rasengan, unlike the Shadow Clone Jutsu, was more superficial. They needed something flashy and recognizable, something that people would remember and subconsciously assign to the identity of the character itself. In truth, that is actually the reason behind...
That's what kind of busts it, since Naruto's thing is having a big chakra pool, and it's like a ball of chakra. It's on that Dragon Ball type, my beam is bigger than your beam type situation.
Behind this trope of characters spamming the same ability over and over again, it's psychology. Humans recognize patterns and are more drawn to things they know. It's easier for them to understand. This of course makes the character more marketable and lends to its popularity. I mean, a random guy went verse makes a character more
Hey, Dragon Ball still up there, man. Dragon Ball still up there, man. And that 10 million is not very surpassable. Like it is surpassable, but it's not as easy as you think it is. Because they're both finished. And it's like, this is just Z, not Super, not, you feel me? So if we want to look at the real number, it's bigger than this. But just looking at the numbers present, the most sold one type situation, because it's the top three, they're both finished. So like that number is not going to get much bigger. This number will always get bigger because there's way more volume. Excuse me. So assuming we live in a perfect world where like one person buys all the volumes, you take 250 million divided by 72, that's the target audience. You can really only read a book once. Like, or buy the book once. You can read it as many times as you like. So on like a digital version where you gotta constantly go back to the site, this is based off like a single time purchase. Same John, take this 42 and divide 260 million by 42. You'll quickly see that this one technically is like more people is what I'm saying. Because if we're assuming one person is buying all 42, again, perfect world type, which is again like nerfing it because one person it's not always buying the whole joint. So there's more people than this. This is like what the least amount of people could be, because assuming only one person buys, you know what I'm saying, all 42 volumes. It's assuming people don't hop around. It's assuming people don't buy for friends as well. Get what I'm saying? So I think it might not be the lowest. One of the lowest ways to look at it is just taking that and dividing it by. Since this is divided by a smaller number, there's more people here versus this one. But even though this number is 2 times smaller than this number is almost 2 times bigger than this number. So even though this one's going to have a more like John, this joint's ongoing. So the amount of volume is going to continue and continue and continue increasing. So this number of sold is going to continue and continue increasing. Even if this ratio stays the same, it's going to get to a point where it's like that number is going to outclass that number when you look at it
and lends to its popularity.
Franchise by franchise.
I mean, a random guy went viral and gained international attention simply because he did the Naruto run in front of a news camera. That is a byproduct of Naruto's popularity and the many signature moves he was able to produce. But there's also a downside to that fame as well. You see, this want or need to build a sense of familiarity or simplicity for shonen main characters often limits the characters as well. They don't get the chance to be creative or diverse for the most part, and would instead gain a...
See, I see what he's saying. Because, like, they're still creative. Like, I think Natsu is, like, a good example. Fire Dragon Slayer. But, like, even in Fairy Tail, the magic is, like, constantly adapting. Kind of like how My Hero, they added the ability that you, like, your quirk grows with you. And, like, in shows like that, that's a problem that's less, like, that's a lesser... It's less prevalent in terms of, like, how bad it is, like in terms of limiting their creativity. But even in terms of Naruto, it's just like the flames get hotter. But like in essence, that's still some type of change, especially considering the techniques he uses kind of vary, and then there's different forms, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a huge shonen thing to like have this one thing that you do, and that's like your pocket. Especially in versus like Naruto or Dragon Ball, where like there's so much pockets for you to go to. We've seen how versatile Ki, Chakra, Nin is. Even then, but Gon is rock, paper, scissors. You know what I'm saying? The main character has to have something. We watched a video about that too. The main character has to have something that like stands out, repeatable, and marketable.
Stronger version of the ability they were initially given. And in some cases, this makes sense. Take Asta for example. He doesn't have the ability to use magic, which is literally the power system of his universe. It makes sense why he's somewhat limited in what he's able to do, but in Naruto's case it's a bit more arbitrary. For example, Naruto's moveset could have and should have been way more extensive than it was, and that's because Naruto is a literal walk-in cheat code. You see, Naruto has an ability called the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This ability pretty much creates a copy of the user that has substance, to the point of possessing bones, blood, and even equivalent chakra to the original. The clones are also equal in strength to Naruto himself, and just as fast as well, since they retain the physical stats of the original. That in and of itself makes this jutsu beyond broken, but there's also something else built into it that makes it even crazier.
The learner?
You see, back in chapter 319, while trying to master wind chakra, Kakashi suggested creating more shadow clones to speed up the process. That's because the Shadow Clone Jutsu also have a function which allows them to send a current experience back to the caster. So if Naruto and his clones perform the same training exercise for the same amount of time, that would reduce his training time proportional to the amount of clones he created. That means one clone would halve the training time and 2 clones would only take a third of the time, etc, etc. That is why Naruto is able to apply his wind nature to the Rasengan.
Kind of cooked too, because he can summon confirmed over 1,000. And nerfed, I'm just going off Storm 4, the 10,000 barrage, reducing something's learning time to 10,000 by like 10,000, like divide its learning time by 10,000. So I owe this person a year to learn that. That's 365 days. Let's do the math, chat. Let's do 365 days. So let's multiply it by 24 hours. Let's multiply it by the amount of minutes an hour, and then let's multiply that by the amount of seconds. Let's multiply by the amount of seconds in an hour. You get 500. You get 31,536,000. That's seconds. So you divide that by 10,000. These are seconds, by the way. It only takes 3,000 seconds to learn that. Divide that by 60 to get it in minutes. 52 minutes. Less than an hour. Something that would take someone an entire year to learn, you can learn in less than an hour. You see how busted that is? It could have had everything. Like, he could literally just be a god of the verse if he wanted to. Not even on some, oh, I was blessed. It's like, deadass, you can just train anything. And that's assuming something takes an entire year to learn. You feel me? And then I is again assuming 10 cases max, which we know to not be the case. I'm just saying, man, it's like that.
Just a few days, when Minato wasn't able to do it after trying for years. The same Minato who's considered a super genius and one of the true prodigies in the series, who created the Rasengan.
And that makes sense because that's multiple years, right? We just confirmed with, I mean, I'm sure he wasn't using 10,000, but if he was using 10,000, he could learn what takes someone a year, an hour. There's 24 hours in a day, so he would have lived 24 of those times 3. Well, it's quick math. That's what, 72? That's 72 hours and like the 3 days. What is condensed to the fact of 72 hours, which means, mind you, the number we had was like 52 something. That is about 72 years worth of experience in 3 days if he was using 10,000 clones. And the only like rebuttal to this is, oh, he doesn't have enough chakra to do that. It's Naruto. They fought in the war for like 3 days straight. He does.
Yet his son, who's considered to be a dunce, mastered something he wasn't able to. Why is that? Well, as I pointed out, Naruto is a walking cheat code, a machine primed to acquire any teachable.
And then if he needed to, he has Sage mode too, which means he's able to extract energy from like the nature. I mean, you'd have to get the right ratio, but you feel me? And it's been shown that he can gather that energy with clones and disperse it to the original
Technique. And this isn't just due to the perk of the Shadow Clone to reduce training times, but also due to Naruto's immense chakra pool. As pointed out by Kakashi, he himself isn't able to exploit the Shadow Clone training like Naruto does. While he can use the Shadow Clone jutsu just like Naruto, he isn't able to maintain them long enough because he simply doesn't have the kind of power Naruto does. He doesn't have a lot of chakra. So not only does he not have the amount of chakra needed to have
debuff, they don't have the same amount of chakra as Naruto. They might, but to maintain the jutsu, he needs to do this. Divide and disperse his chakra into equal portions. So it's either they have a fraction, like Meliodas, but seeing as they're able to use high tier jutsu, I would 100% assume it's just to maintain it, he has to do this.
A lot of chakra. So not only does he not have the amount of chakra needed to create the amount of clones Naruto does, he wouldn't be able to maintain them even if he did, because clones need a constant stream of chakra to remain active.
Yeah.
So Kakashi, just like 98% of characters
in
the verse, would never be able to take advantage of
Only
this
Naruto
method
can do it.
like Naruto could, which is what makes him so special. That is why it was so surprising to me that after learning the Rasen Shuriken using this training method, he never does it again. I kid you not, Naruto never again uses this overpowered training method that allows him to learn abilities in 1/100th of the time it would take anyone else to learn it.
He was using 100 Shadow Clones. He can definitely use more than that, by the way.
The entire story from the moment he created Rasen Shuriken without Naruto.
I don't know why he keeps doing that. And if we're talking about simpler jutsu, he could get them to the mastery state in like less time. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not talking about creating a jutsu. It takes hella time. Maybe changing an element or something, yeah, just like the Rasengan. Turn into the Rasen Shuriken. But perfecting a jutsu, you know how useful that is on the battlefield? Chakra proportions, being able to add natures to it like that, stop it in its track, make it faster, stuff like that.
Ever doing this again, while Sasuke on the other hand was going around collecting abilities like Pokemon. And as I said, I totally understand the argument from a marketability and simplicity standpoint, and wanting to not make your main character too powerful. All of those things are very good points to varying extent, to be honest, but it has to also make sense in universe as well.
Yeah.
This is not a case where the character simply isn't able to learn new abilities based on some established mechanic. Naruto is able to learn any
Choosing not
jutsu
to.
in this universe once it isn't a Keke Genkai, Keke Tota, or Keke Mora. I mean, you expect me to believe that Naruto wouldn't be able to learn FTG, Flying Thunder God, even though he learned the Rasengan faster than Minato did and was able to apply his nature element to it while Minato couldn't after trying for many years. It is obviously the case that adding his nature element to the Rasengan was way more difficult than using Flying Thunder God, so why would Naruto fail at using FTG?
Exactly. It took him 3 days to create a new jutsu rather than use something already established with rules that you can just do trial and error on 100 different variations per like however long it takes you to attempt it.
When he completed something even more difficult. That doesn't make sense. And look, to some extent, you could explain why Naruto never learned FTG after the Pain Arc, since there wasn't anyone there to teach him. Minato and Tobirama were both deceased, and he didn't have any connection to Minato's minions who also knew the jutsu. It is even possible that he wasn't aware of the fact that they knew the formula, but that argument becomes a bit flimsy after he literally saw them use it in the war to teleport the Mitsukage. And I know some will argue that, well, kiddo, FTG isn't the only teleportation jutsu, so maybe Naruto thought it was something else. And to that I say it doesn't matter. Whether it's FTG or instant transmission, he now knows that they possess a jutsu that can help him teleport to different locations. This of course is way more important in the context of the story post-Shippuden, since these guys now know of other dimensions and time spaces. In fact, during the Boruto section of the story, they are actively anticipating the arrival of threats greater than Kaguya based on information found in the scroll. That is why Sasuke is actively traveling across Kaguya's dimensions to gather information and prepare for the incoming threat. Then you get to Naruto, and what exactly is he doing? Absolutely nothing. I mean, he's running the village, of course, but he isn't doing anything.
Mind you, the same way he sends clones home, he can make clones do the work. There should be no threats in the village. But I can get why that'd like be bad if that got out. But yeah, I think with the amount of clones it can create though, he has to be the most efficient Hokage. Now is he in a harder time, like having to do press conferences, stuff like that? Yeah, in terms of paperwork, it's not that much harder. But yeah, have a clone read over all of it, destroy the clone, you know the entire paper, and just say yes or no. And like just put the papers in like stacks of 4. And let's say it takes him all day to do the work to the point where he comes home so late, or sometimes doesn't go home, cut that work into half, right? Assuming he has to sleep at some point, and he's not sleeping in the office. Say he does come home, but just mad late. Cut that in half instead of the joint taking all day. Assuming he sleeps for about 6 hours, right? 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18. It's 18 hours in a day. 18 divided by 4. You got 4, 8, 12. You got around 4.5, give or take. It take him from 18 hours to 4.5 hours to like get his work done. It becomes like a way shorter shift.
Anything at all to prepare himself for battle. To the point that Kurama calls him rusty because he hasn't been.
And again, that's like 4 clones. And that's not even like, okay, I'll do my job, but I'll have my clones train. Or I have clones, or I'll like have clones make seals around the village so I don't have to do perimeter sweeps, and I'll have those clones train. I'll train my son, or the tuning exams is coming up. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't be here, but I sent this clone type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Doing anything for the past few years.
He's a man with infinite
this,
time.
By the way, isn't a phantom critique. The story itself acknowledges that Naruto isn't properly balancing his duties as the Hokage to his family and to his own body, which of course is a very human thing to do. But that doesn't change the fact that this is Naruto wasting his potential, which is the title of the video. The same way you would say that to anyone else that you know have a higher peak than what they're currently reaching. You think that after the war he would have had Genma, which is the guy that knows how to use FTG, teach him FTG in preparation for the otherworldly threats that can trap him in other dimensions. I mean, the guy was right.
Not to mention, again, just handle the work faster, twin. I know that sounds so crazy, but super speed, so you could imagine probably super perception. Don't crank it all the way up to the max. And you could go, oh, that's a waste of chakra, but I'd rather waste chakra to get my day done faster and not be ready for threats than like be actually physically tired and drained by the time a threat occurs. Like, get that through your head, bro. With the amount of reserves it has, let's assume it takes away a quarter of his reserves. he is still the strongest ninja by far. And then the only comp is like Sasuke. But that's not physically exhausted and fatigued, where it's like, it doesn't matter how much chakra you have, you're cooked. It's just, oh, I use a little bit of my chakra. Which I have a whole chakra battery inside of me being Kurama the Jinchuriki. Or the Tail Beast. Like, come on, bro.
There at Kakashi's inauguration, so you had access to him. You'd also think that he would have wanted to have a jutsu that can help him get to Sasuke since he's sending him on missions to unknown dimensions. What if something happens to Sasuke and they never hear from him again? I don't know, a jutsu...
Or again, just send a clone with Sasuke. And then worst case scenario, oh, it's Hokage, that's conspicuous. Have you use transformation jutsu. And it doesn't have to be a shadow clone, it could be like a wood clone, but I'm assuming shadow clone would be best. And then, yeah. And then the only, like, complaint is if the clone, like, gets damaged enough to get packed up. But in that event, Naruto immediately gets the information and they can go, like, help Sasuke best he can. You feel me? Or send one of the toads. And then it can just reverse summon itself back to Naruto. And I'm sure Sasuke wouldn't have a problem with this because not like Naruto's spying on him. The clone thing would be kind of like him spying on him. But, like, that's your bro. That's pretty much like being with your bro at all times. That sounds fun. Not at all times, but you get what I mean. When he's out on missions, it'd be like, it'd make it less boring, less like mind numbing. And then in the Toad case, just like, that joint's just there. Like, it will be sleep 90% of the time. But if something goes down, it'll just reverse summon itself back to Naruto.
That allows him to place his chakra on an object or on Sasuke himself, which would allow him to teleport to him anywhere he is in the universe. Would come in handy, I guess. You'd also think that after Jigen left him in that dimension and Sasuke turned up just in time to save him, he would have thought that, you know, maybe I need a teleportation jutsu of my own, so I'm not placed in this position again. And by the way, they were placed in that position again after Momoshiki destroyed Sasuke's Rinnegan, so there you go. Mind you, Naruto as the Hokage has access to all the jutsus in the entire village, even the forbidden ones, and never attempts to learn a single one of them. He didn't learn.
Well, you could argue the forbidden ones are like really bad, but like no, they're not. They're just dangerous if people who don't know how to wield them get a hold of them. And as the Hokage, if you want to keep it a buck, Tobirama created most of them, so the Hokage should be immune to that like premise. You are quite literally the guy. You know, you didn't just get elected. You already have power, so you can't really be here off greed. You could be, but like, it's very unlikely you're there off greed. You feel me? You have an idea of responsibility because of the jobs you have to do. So it's like, what are the odds the Hokage is about to use forbidden jutsu to destroy the village? You have what you want already. Type situation. So like, he deadass could just learn some of the other forbidden jutsu, and then he'd be cooler. You know what I'm saying? And pair that with multi-shadow clone jutsu and an arsenal so robust, it becomes like unbeatable. That's why I reckon they don't use it. They used it once, so like, you know what I'm saying? You couldn't like meat suck him learning Rasen Shuriken so fast, right? To kind of expedite growth. But if they use it again, then it's like, you know what I'm saying? People are already mad that he's not using it as much as he needs to. There's like EXP glitch, but if they use it again, then it becomes like, okay, bro, you should be spamming this. Every single like plot device becomes like just an inconvenience the main character could have prevented.
To open 8 gates, which I assume would be 100 times easier with his Shadow Clone cheat code, which is crazy since he was able to contend with Jubidara. Just imagine Naruto stacking 8 gates onto his existing power. This guy would have been a beast. But no, of course, he didn't care to do it, just like how he didn't care to learn FTG or any sealing techniques, despite knowing that some of these aliens might need to be sealed away. He would much rather go into battle unprepared, throwing Rasengans and punches, even when they're clearly not working. That is precisely what happened when Ishiki arrived in the village, by the way. All they had were hopes and wishes. No emergency techniques or sealing jutsu they've been working on this entire time for this exact situation, despite knowing that other threats greater than Kage were heading towards the planet. They did nothing to prepare for this. Kishimoto and Ikimoto really had my goat stepping out there in his prime, with his only improvement being a bigger Rasengan. Bro didn't refine any of his techniques in his years leading up to being the Hokage or afterwards. He didn't master any more chakra natures, didn't create a new type of Rasengan, didn't add BBLs to the Sexujutsu. Like, bro did literally nothing. In fact, going into his prime, Naruto lost abilities instead. He no longer has TSO, True Seeking Orbs, which literally has the ability to use every chakra nature, including the special ones such as Explosion Release and Dust Release, which erases anything it touches. He also doesn't use Boil Release anymore, which boosted his stats to the point that he could easily overpower Kage at full strike, He doesn't have the ability to levitate, can't restore organs or life anymore since he lost the Yang Seal. Like, bro literally got debuffed in terms of abilities, but got a boost in physical stats instead. There's also the issue of him having Hashirama cells, which is the hand that is in bandages. Naruto is the only character in his own story in the history of the franchise that was compatible with Hashirama cells, but didn't gain the ability to use wood release. The guy who's Hashirama's next life and...
Not to mention, it's interesting that with the Tail Beast and the healing is done for Naruto, in terms of internal wounds, it can't heal his arm. But I guess you could argue you need, like, a basis to heal it off of. It's like, yeah, but... Same token, it's a Tail Beast, dog. And you have regen. Would it take a long time? Sure. But, like, you feel me? And then on top of the fact that he had Hashirama cells accelerating the healing, his healing factor should be through the roof to the point where he can't be physically damaged. To some extent. He's, like, more resilient. But, yeah, he's the only one with them that didn't unlock wood release like Yamato. Which is bad because that is where, like, a lot of the good sealing techniques come from, twin. So, like, his bag was, like, heavily nerfed.
Literal blood descendant is the only person who received his cells and didn't gain his abilities, aside from Sasuke, but that's for a different video. Okay, we'll get to that one. The point is that every person who got a literal attachment of this guy gained the ability to use wood release. Madara did, Obito did, Yamato did, and even Orochimaru himself after taking over the body of a white Zetsu. Yet Naruto, for some reason,
who has a direct connection.
Now, one could argue that maybe the way his Hashirama cell hand functions simply doesn't allow for him to gain abilities from it, and to that I say you might be correct, but it doesn't change the fact that they made it.
If I'm not mistaken, his arm's kind of like a prosthetic. Like, he absorbed some jutsu that Boruto threw in some episode. So I don't think it's like a fully functional arm.
Which again goes to my argument about his wasted potential. Now, I want to be fair and say that Naruto learned the error of his ways and started training again after the Momoshiki attack, which almost destroyed the village. He doesn't actually train himself. He's more so trying to get the people around him to be stronger. So this again doesn't address the issue of him wasting his potential.
Which is pretty good, because if you're power cliffing your verse really bad, the best way to stand a chance against a threat that is far stronger than you is raising them up. Because if not, then they're kind of just sitting in the background, you know? And if the main villain decides to cook them, if you're like slightly weaker than them, they can just smoke anybody you care about. So it's not half bad, but he should also be training himself as well, I'd reckon.
Potential by not using the cheat code Kakashi taught him years prior. And the saddest thing about it is that he doesn't have that cheat code anymore. Yes, after losing Kurama, Naruto no longer has the ability to make use of this mechanic like he once did. That is because he doesn't have the chakra quantity that he once possessed. I addressed all this in my video about how strong Naruto currently is without Kurama, so you guys can go watch that one after this one. But the main point is that Naruto's boosted stamina, which is responsible for the production of chakra, came from Kurama. His immense chakra pool was also a thing because the seal allowed the Nine-Tails chakra to leak out into his own chakra pool. This was outright stated by the Toad Sages and Naruto himself. This wasn't because of his Uzumaki blood, and this was again confirmed in chapter 670, with Hagoromo stating that Naruto didn't inherit any of his parents' natural abilities. You can see that in the fact that he couldn't handle the full Nine-Tails, which is why Minato took half of it with him to death. You can also see it in the fact that Naruto immediately went comatose when the Nine-Tails was extracted, while Kushina was totally fine and strong enough to run and even hold down the Nine-Tails. This of course makes sense since Kushina is a pure-blooded Uzumaki while Naruto is a half-breed, thus the blonde hair, and half-breeds sometimes don't inherit the specific trait of the bloodline. That's also why I didn't really knock him for not really being a sealing jutsu pro, which is what the Uzumaki are known for, because he simply didn't inherit that proficiency.
It's a little irritating though, because he can craft the proficiency, because I don't think his father was good at sealing techniques, but there's no blood tied to why he's able to be good at them. I'm assuming he just learned them. You know, you can excuse anything by saying someone's proficient at it, like fireball jutsu. But if you put in the hours to learn it, no matter how good you are at it, the proficiency upped at some point. So it's like, it doesn't hurt to try, especially when you can cut training time that would take years down to a mere hour.
Ironically, him being a half-blood is also another way in which his potential was wasted, but Minato being his father is also cool, so who cares? The main point is that he doesn't have the massive chakra reserves he once had, which means he can't produce the amount of shadow clones he once did, nor can he maintain them as long as he did.
They nerfed him to a regular dude without giving him any type of like cushion or rebound. Not ability, but rebound like potential. Because he's supposed to be an underdog. That's the point. But I'm saying they didn't give him any like training that he did to like allow him to like, okay, yeah, I'm nerfed, but I'm still finna get on your ass. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Naruto does have enough chakra to enter stage mode similar to Minato and Jiraiya, which means his chakra amount is at least above average, but it isn't anywhere close to what it was when he had Kurama. Put it this way, it's like when you have a cup that is empty. Let's say this is where the chakra is kept when it's produced. Naruto would pour his own chakra into that cup, which is produced by stamina. The Ninetales chakra would also leak into that cup and merge with Naruto's chakra, greatly expanding the amount of chakra he possesses. When Naruto then expounds chakra to use a jutsu or power his techniques, both the chakra that he produced and the chakra that leaked from the Ninetales into his chakra pool gets consumed, which is why he runs out of chakra and this process needs to happen again. The problem now, of course, is that Naruto no longer has the Ninetales to leak more chakra into his chakra pool, which means all he has is the amount of chakra he's able to produce. That is why Sakura says in anime that he doesn't have superhuman chakra anymore, and he can't use jutsu like he used to. This would simply mean that Naruto really...
Not to mention, there are other Jinchuriki. To be honest, there was nothing stopping him from, like, putting multiple Jinchuriki on one person, besides, like, maybe them not being able to handle it. I'm not too, like, fact-checked on that, but y'all just let me know.
Can't take advantage of the Shadow Clone training technique like he could have in the past.
Yeah,
he can likely still create multiple shadow clones to reduce his training time,
probably like
but not
4
anywhere
or
near to
8,
the extent
not 100
that he once could. Like, I want you guys to understand that the training method was so effective that he mastered something that it normally takes someone over a decade to grasp in just 2 days. And this was without the full cooperation of the Ninetales. Just imagine if Hokage and Naruto with both halves of Kurama spawned like 4,000 clones and went to work. This man would be unbeatable. But alas, Kishimoto just disregarded this overpowered training method immediately after the arc in which it was introduced, which is just unfortunate. With that said, that's it for the video. Let me know your thoughts down below. I wanted to get this off my chest for a very long time, so here we are. And also, if you guys want to know about the chakra...
See, we just watched about the chakra paradox. We just watched that video. Hold on. Is there like a way to... There isn't a way to like add them, so I just have to find them naturally. Hey man, shout out to Kiddo Maki for the video to react to. You know what I'm saying? I put my little 2 cents in here and there. I'm not too deep in, but I hope y'all enjoy my take on that. And if you want to find again videos like these, but you don't want to find them yourself, you know what I'm saying? Try subscribing, man. Discord comments link down in the description. As always, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I love you boys and girls. You know what time to see me next time. Peace.